Yeah, me too.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I wish I didn't, but I still do.
Yeah.
But I do think cash loves curiosity. If you remember anything else, it's that money is really attracted to the type of human that keeps asking questions. You don't actually have to know the answers often to make money. You need to ask the right questions. So I kind of trained myself every time I saw somebody with money or I got to know somebody with money. I didn't need to know anything else besides like, can I just ask them a lot of questions continuously? And it was funny because I was talking to, I think, another mutual friend of ours, Jesse Eitzler, the other day. And Jesse talks about how he used to go to a hotel here and he would just ask questions in the lobby or at the lunch table. He was like living not in a nice place. He had no cash whatsoever. But when he saw people that he thought looked rich or interesting, he would just ask them questions. And I think with the internet, sometimes we think that questions don't matter anymore. And we go to the internet to get answers. And if instead you can make a human connection and get curious about them, they'll give things to you.
Yeah.
And so I played a game when I was really young, which is I kind of started collecting mentors who never knew they were my mentor. And I think this is a really clever thing to do. And I remember one in particular, Bob Kendall, and BK is what we call him. He was super high up at I don't know if it was Goldman or Credit Suisse at the time, one of the companies. And he was so like out of my range, like, you know, when somebody else is in a company and I was basically the intern and he was the big dog. But I got a couple chances to interact with him and I would just ask him questions, like very simple ones, like, you just took over this area of the business. Like, what did you see there as opposed to this other area where a lot of people are going? I would just kind of be quite curious. And then I would do a thing that I think probably helped me make more mentors than anything else, which is I would get their contact information. I would never ask them for anything. I would largely just say, hey, that piece of advice that you gave me the other day, that was really useful and I applied it this way. Thank you for doing that. Or I'd see if his name was written somewhere. He had done a research paper or something. I might send it to him like with a couple highlighted things like these lines were incredible. Thank you for doing that. Then after I had done that a few times, I might give them one question like, hey, I'm thinking about going into marketing or sales. And I'm trying to figure out, how do you decide which career path is more interesting to you? Do you have just like a one sentence about it? Or do you have one book that you'd like to read, like really short? And I remember I sat down with BK years later and he was like, you know, the funny thing about you? And I was like, oh, what? And he was like, you like somehow made me your mentor, but you never asked. And then I started caring about what happened to your career, but I kind of never meant to, which is like a very Asperger's-y finance thing to do. Yeah. And he's like, did you do that on purpose? And I was like, I don't know. I was young then, so I don't know, but maybe. That tiny transfer of, hey, I have advice and somebody actually takes it, uses it continuously, wants nothing from me for it, and then gives me a positive feedback loop that I'm making change on their life is so rare.
So smart.
Right?
That's genius. That's actually the best mentorship advice I think I've ever heard. Because I think so many of us, when we want someone to be our mentor, the first mistake is we ask them to be our mentor.
Don't do that. That also makes me die on the inside. If somebody asks me that, I'm like, that's such a huge responsibility. What if I f you up?
Exactly.
I don't want
or
that.
What if I don't have time? What
Right.
if I can't respond? Like that's the natural reaction.
Right.
And same with me. I've always had mentors that don't know they're my mentors. It's the only way. But what I love about your advice, which I've never ever heard before, is also how you asked for advice. I think the second mistake. So the first mistake we say is, can you be my mentor?